and think about it. So there's three things I want to share with you tonight. The one is about time. The second one is about a story. And the third one is about music. So welcome to everyone, and when we started thinking of tonight and what I wanted to say, the biggest thing I had, and it was like a burning burden, was to thank everyone separately, one after the other. But then 79 of you is going to be bored while I thank the 80th person, and then we will change it again. And I thought, no, I'll rather thank you one by one. So the next thing I thought is, okay, I might tell you what this 4 years has all been into and all that. But again, very few people is really interested in the scientific development of hippotherapy. So why on earth would I put you through that? And I thought, but then maybe I shouldn't speak. And then I thought, okay, but the P in PhD stands for philosophy. And actually, the only thing that actually says is, how do you think about knowledge? And how do you think is knowledge acquired? And then when you start writing all these chapters, you should say, what is your positionality in this chapter and in this study and in this part? And that made me think, because I learned so much about my position in life through the studies, just by having to stand back and think about it. So there's 3 things I want to share with you tonight. The one is about time. The second one is about a story. And the third one is about music. So if you look at this philosophical stance that I'm taking, and I'm thinking that we all got some time when we were born. A few years, 100 years, a few days, hours, whatever. But that is our life currency that we have. And that is actually, if I spend some time with someone, I'm paying for that conversation, maybe that movie that I'm watching, with my very expensive life currency. And I'm extremely aware that you are using some of yours tonight to be here with us. And I want to thank you for that. But there's 2 people that I would really like to come and stand with me, Tanya and Kitty. So these 2 ladies do get paid for their life currency that they use as working for the university. But they use far more time than anyone ever could expect from anyone doing their job. And if there was more supervisors like these 2 people, I think more people would have postgraduate degrees in life. So I already gave them their flowers, so there's no more flowers tonight. I'm sorry, ladies. But I just really want to thank you for going way beyond. Yeah, so I really want to salute these 2 ladies. But it also goes a little bit further. So with this life currency and us spending our time and using our time, I had to think before I started with this study, if I really want to use 4 years of my life currency to do a study like this. Now, I'm not going to bore you with all the decisions, but I knew beforehand. And I really wanted to make a difference in the world. Because whenever I walked beside a horse, treating some clients, like little Lucia who is here tonight, I get reminded, that's the second point, that is not my story. I'm but part in someone else's story when I'm treating them as a therapist. And I have one obligation, and that is to fulfill that little bit of time that I spend with them to the best of my ability. And it might be cut out of their life story when their movie is made. That's okay. That's not my concern. My concern is to play that part that I have and that privilege that I have to play in their life story to the best of my ability at that stage. And each one of you also played a part in my life story. And while I was busy with this kind of boring story, if you have to sit down and read it, I was very involved in it. But some of you fought brutal battles, metaphorically, and some of you physically. Others maybe had a romance or even a romantic comedy going on. And some had
a romantic comedy.
some had a drama in their lives. And for each person, your story is the most important story, because you are the main character in your story. And you can go on with this whole philosophical thing, whether it's God now who is the creator of the story, or did he write it, or are you writing and he's directing. I'm not going there tonight. Just this picture of a story that sometimes I'm just not that important. I'm just playing another role in someone else's story. Helped me a lot. Thank you, Eunice, for setting me free about worrying what other people say. Because you know what, sometimes I'm just not that important. They are fighting their own battles in their own story. And still, most of you who's here tonight somehow played a part in my story and chose to use some of your time to play an extra, or sometimes a very significant part in my story, whether it was our university friends, or whether it was people really giving input in my PhD, or Ma Ingrid, who listened for hours on the telephone when I was really downhearted and gave me her support. Everyone played a part. Sometimes you had to wait for your wife who supported me. And even then, therefore, I want to thank you. Then the last bit of the story is, I don't know how many of you read Asterix. But in Asterix, when a whole adventure comes to a conclusion, they have fires, and they have a banquet, and there's wild boars on the table, and they celebrate. And that's what we want to do tonight. Not just my PhD, we want to celebrate life and renew old friendships with that picture of Asterix and them around the fires, enjoying it. But then there's always one little picture of the village, how do you pronounce? The bard, the village musician. And they tie him to a tree, or they put them somewhere, because apparently he made a lot of noise. But I was wondering if his songs didn't maybe cause them to be uncomfortable. Because maybe he shared more in his songs than what people cared to hear. And I decided not to tie my bard somewhere in a tree tonight. So that once load shedding is finished, David will sometimes put on some music, but we're not going to play it all the time, because the kind of music I listen to is a wide variety, but I actively listen to music. So it doesn't make for good background noise. For me, it's just noise. But each one of these stories, each one of these songs, I chose specifically to share something, whether it was me being a teenager that wanted to break free, or whether it was later and I dreamed about being one of the girls that Julio Iglesias loved before, or whether it was more serious stuff, or a punk rocker on my way to an NDT course. But some of those, so if you wish, and you just sit still, listen to those words and experience those songs, it's me trying to share something of my life with all of you that's so special to me. So thank you so much for coming, and enjoy tonight.
Thank you.